This 5-year-old boy must have his scales removed every day to live. His story will astonish you. Nothing beats the joy of a couple than bringing home their first child. A newborn baby is seen as a way to solidify a union and make them feel like a real family. However, when a child is born sick or disabled, it might be a nightmare to their parents. This is exactly what happened to the parents of Evan Fasciano. Say hello to Evan, a 5-year-old boy from Goshen, Connecticut, born on June 9, 2010. He was given his name due to its Celtic meaning, young warrior, which he has lived up to from the moment he was born. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
Harlequin ichthyosis is a severe skin disorder. It is a genetic disorder that's inherited at birth. For Evan, it is the most severe form of ichthyosis.
Evan was born with a painful medical condition that means he has to undergo daily skin treatments just to ensure his survival. But there's far more to his story than his illness.
Evan was diagnosed 2 days prior to birth. We have never heard of ichthyosis prior to hearing it from the doctors before he was born. It was hard because we really didn't know what to expect, and it was scary just hearing the information that was available at that time in 2010, hearing that a lot of babies might not survive.
Evan lives with his 33-year-old mom, Didi, as well as his father, Joe, and his younger brother, Vincenzo. Despite Evan's illness, the family are doing their best to ensure Evan lives a normal, happy life. His birth was unexpected, being born 9 weeks premature at Yale New Haven Children's Hospital. And just 48 hours before Evan was born, his parents were told that he suffers from Harlequin ichthyosis, a genetic disease that makes his skin grow at 7 times the rate it should. This leaves thick, white scales all over his body.
I remember looking at him, though he was covered up, it was just a relief for me to see his tummy go up and down.
Evan was delivered 9 weeks early and spent the first 2 months of his life in an intensive care unit. Indeed, for the first 2 weeks or so, he couldn't actually open his eyes. Harlequin ichthyosis is passed on genetically. If parents are carriers, then their children have a 1 in 4 chance of being affected. It was a very intense feeling not knowing anything about his condition. There is currently no known cure. However, while the condition was once almost inevitably fatal, medical advancements and treatments have now made it possible to live with the disease. For Evan, that means bathing twice a day in order to have his scales and excess skin removed. Without this constant skin management, he'd be at far greater risk of infection.
The bathing process is really important for people with ichthyosis because their skin is growing 10 times faster than the average person. We bathe him because we need to exfoliate his skin. We need to make sure his skin stays clean. Since his skin is at risk of infection, everything has to be very clean and sanitary.
Didi uses her hands to remove most of Evan's excess skin, finishing off with an exfoliating washcloth. The most difficult areas to treat are his hands and scalp, where the condition is most severe and the skin is thickest.
The amount of skin that comes off is absolutely crazy. Since his skin is so severely dry, he needs to be coated with an emollient to prevent it from cracking or ripping, and it's more of a protective barrier. He's usually very happy and giggly when he gets Aquaphor. Okay, arms up high in the sky. Okay, can you stay still, please?
After each bath, Didi then uses a net to retrieve the leftover skin and ointment products used by Evan. This is simply a logistical necessity of Evan's illness. The house's drains could be blocked otherwise. The main ointment used is Aquaphor, a moisturizer that Evan is completely covered in so that his skin doesn't dry out. A prescription cream is then applied to the most heavily affected areas. Evan's parents praised the youngster's attitude given the circumstances, telling the Daily Mail he rarely complains about anything. I don't know if I could say the same if I was in his condition. Evan's life is affected in more ways than having to just take twice daily baths, however. His motor skills are less developed than other children his age, and he has to use a walking frame in order to get around.
We were always a little bit nervous that we would have to get a feeding tube just because of the infection risk with surgery. He rarely complains about anything.
His condition also means he's always at risk of dehydrating, the effects of which can be devastating. Sunstroke and seizure are just two of the potentially fatal consequences. Didi told the Daily Mail he can't sweat, so he can overheat very easily. We're constantly pushing fluids and food as much as we can just to keep him up on the calorie intake.
He can't sweat, so he can overheat very easily. He can go into heat stroke very easily. He can have seizures. We're constantly pushing fluids, drinks, food as much as we can just to keep him up on the calorie intake.
The youngest member of the Fasciano family, Vincenzo, is only a toddler. He doesn't share Evan's affliction, but the older brother isn't jealous. Far from it. In fact, when Vincenzo learned to walk, Evan showed pride in his sibling, saying, "Good job." Unfortunately, Evan's positive attitude has had to go up against derogatory or negative remarks from passers-by. Vindictive or ignorant strangers have called him a lobster and accused Didi of letting him get sunburnt.
There's been instances where people have made bad comments, and you do your best to stay positive.
They would never want Evan to feel uncomfortable going out in public. He does sometimes seem to be a little shy when he notices people staring at him. I don't want him to react negatively. I would rather live a positive lifestyle and not let some stranger who was being rude ruin his day.
However, Evan still hasn't let it get to him. The youngster waves hello to everyone he knows at school, and his parents encourage him to be a role model for other kids who might have their own challenges to deal with.
Pretty much known as the rock star in his school. Everybody waves to him. He literally doesn't put his hand down when he's walking in the hallway. I've gone to his school quite a few times to teach the students about ichthyosis, just if they're curious about what's going on with his skin. And every time I go in there, he's right up in the front row, helping me teach the other students.
In fact, Evan is doing great. In May this year, he finished kindergarten, achieving everything that was asked of him, both academically and in terms of fighting his condition. It's fitting then that Evan's name derives from the Gaelic for young warrior. He may not have had the best start to life, but he's beaten the odds given to him at birth. When doctors told the Fascianos that Evan's chances of survival were not high should he suffer from an infection. As a preemie, he faced many challenges in addition to his skin condition. He's very behind developmentally. Evan is finally sitting on his own and is now an army crawling all over the place. He loves to be on his feet. Evan's dad, Joe, told the Daily Mail, "We both knew he was going to be a strong little guy and that he would make it through anything."
I want Evan to be somebody that people can look up to, somebody that people can say, wow, he's got a lot of challenges. His appearance isn't the same, but he can teach people a lot of things, and he can definitely be a big positive influence for a lot of people with similar disorders.
Looking at the incredible progress Evan has made in the first few years of his life, it's hard to argue with that. You'd think Evan would be frightened of the world around him or too intimidated to face the public, but on the contrary, he is a happy and outgoing child who has many friends at his school in Connecticut. Thanks to his family, Evan is blessed with a positive outlook on life and tons of support from his classmates and teachers. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.